Hey all, so we're going to talk about the nominated problems from 4.7. We're going to talk about 9 and 13. First of all, we're going to talk about 9 because it's kind of helpful for 13. So 9, it asks you to make a scatter plot using the data in this table and then talk about the correlation. So first thing you want to do is that if you're stuck on these, you can look at the back of the book and that might help you lay out your X and Y grid. One thing you'll notice here, same as in number 5, is that there's a third column, but when we make a scatter plot, we only use X and Y. In the case of number 5, the type of transplant is not something that we're graphing. It's not a number, so that's really easy to tell. And same thing in number 9, we're not going to use that first column. That just tells us when we took the data calculations. It doesn't tell us anything about what the calculations actually are. So we're only going to use that second set of data. So in this case, we've got the first number, which is going to be our x-axis. So these are the pollen from the weed plants. So 100, 200, we can see that our maximum that we're going to get is 488. So I went up to 500 here, which your book also agrees with. And then grass pollen, the top number is 29, so I went up to 30 because it's just a little bit easier to deal with. So now that we've got our axes all laid out and labeled, we're going to start plotting our points. Our first one says that the x-axis is going to be 350, so that's going to be about here. And then on the y-axis it's 16, so if this is 15, 16 is going to be right above that. So where it's 16 on this axis here is where I'm going to plot our first point, just like we would on the coordinate plane. So that's that first point there. The next one would be at 51 here, so really low, right? 51, about halfway in between 0 and 100. And then 1, which again is really low, so we're going to have a point right there as our second point. 49.9, which would be about the same value here, but it's a little bit higher. It's up by 10. 309, so right about here, and 29, so that's going to take us all the way up there. Oops, sorry, 309 and 3. I apologize. So 309 and 3 be about there. A little low. I call this one the outlier. Then we've got 480 here and 29. So that's our next point, and then we have 2 more that are, let's see, got another one down here, 33, and our last one is 65.12. So there's our scatter plot. Obviously, I'm doing it on a whiteboard. It's a little bit messier. Hopefully yours on line paper is looking a little bit nicer. And what we can see here is that we have this outlier, but otherwise it's got a pretty positive line, because as this is it going up, as we look at it from the axis, it's going up like this, so that means it's positive. And yes, there's an outlier, but that's okay, as we talked about last week. Now, for 13, this one asks you, here we say it has a positive correlation, but talk about the difference between cause and effect. So because these are positively correlated doesn't mean that they cause each other. So grass pollen increasing doesn't mean that the weed pollen increases. They both happen to increase at the same time, but they don't cause the other one. So for example, I would guess in this state, what causes both of these pollens to increase is the temperature and the time of year. So when things are flowering, when things are releasing pollen. The cause is the time of year. They are correlated because they are both related to the same cause, but they do not cause each other. Hope that these helped with 9 and 13, and if you have other questions, especially about the upcoming test, please get in touch. Talk to you later.